welcome back to my channel. My name's Georgia. I hope you're well. Today we are going to be doing my July wrap up. This month has honestly flown by. It's been so crazy. We have read 6 books, but we have failed epically on my TBR. So we picked 6 books for my July TBR and I've only actually managed to read 3 of those, but I have still read 6 books in total. So we will go through those in a moment. But what have you guys read this month? Do let me know in the comments. I always find it so interesting seeing what you guys have been reading, if you enjoyed them or not. So definitely let me know in the comments below. But yeah, let's get straight into my July wrap up. Like I say, we have 6 books to go through, so I'm just gonna start from day one. So, the first book that I read in July was Wolf by Paisley Hope. Now, this is like a dark MC romance. I love MC. I have a little shelf dedicated to Emily Catlow's MC romances there. I love MC romance so much. So, I will say, to start with, this is a dark romance. Like, there are some darker topics and scenes in this book. So, definitely check your trigger warnings. But I love this. I really enjoyed this. This is actually an arc that I read, but I was a little bit late on getting around to it, and then I bought the physical copy once I'd read it. But I really enjoyed this. Gabriel is definitely going to be up there as one of my new sort of like book boyfriend favourites at the moment. So this is book 1 in the Soldiers of Bedlam, I think is how you say it. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. Book 2 isn't out yet, so this is the first book in the series. But this follows our main characters, Gabriel and Brinley. Now, Gabriel is the president of the motorcycle gang, so I want to call them Hounds of Hell, but I'm doubting myself. I'm sure it's Hounds of Hell. And Brinley is sort of just like your normal girl. She doesn't really know anything of bike culture. She is just like, she's moved back to her parents' old house. I think her parents have passed away and she's basically been left this house, so she decides to move home. She's just got out of a really unhealthy, toxic relationship, so she's moved home to basically live in their old family home. Bumps into an old friend from school who she used to be really close with, and they basically get chatting again, and she is dating it's not his second, it's his sergeant in arms. I knew it weren't the vice president, it was the sergeant in arms that she was dating, and she basically introduces them to the gang, and they sort of like bump into each other on a night out. Her friend's getting married to the sergeant in arms, whose name has completely escaped me, and she basically talks her into going into like the wedding and things like that, where she meets the main male character in this book. So it's a very different style of life than what Brinley is used to, and it's so interesting to see how she sort of like gets on with that. I'm not going to tell you much more than that because it is spoiling it, but it is very spicy, it is very dark in times, and I love this so much. I do find like dark romances a bit hit and miss because some of the themes and topics in them I don't like, but this one was fine. I did enjoy this one, but it is really dark. So I really love this one. I definitely recommend it. I rated this 4 stars. So the next 3 books that I read in July, I actually read for like a continuing series that I'm in the middle of. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll pop it up here. There's a lot more detail and sort of like thoughts as I have them in that video. The next book that I finished in July was Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. There's a lot more details on my thoughts about them in that other video, so I will just keep it sort of short and sweet for this one. But this is the last book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I loved it. I really loved it. This book was such a nice way to sort of round out the series and round out the characters and all their stories. So this one follows Camille and Dusty. They have been sort of hinted at throughout the entire series, and it's like a second chance romance. So Dusty has always been obsessed with Camille. They dated when they were younger. There was this big sort of like tragic breakup, and then they sort of bumped into each other again through the ranch. Camille is a single mum. She has a child with Gus, which is the main character in book 3. It's just so interesting to me to read sort of like a single parent book that's not a single dad nanny situation. So this is just a single mum and a guy who loves her and is willing to take on a daughter, and it's just so sweet. This book made me cry. There's a bonus chapter at the end that's nothing to do with Camille and Dusty. It's to do with the couple from the first book, and it's sort of like their marriage. So they haven't actually got married throughout all the other books and the epilogues and things, but it's their wedding day. And it's just so cute. It's so cute. And yeah, I actually sat and cried. And I don't cry at books. I'm not a crier for things like that. I don't cry at films. But it made me cry. So I really enjoyed this one. Now I'm going to rate this one 4.5 stars because I loved it. I have loved the entire series. I just think it's so cute and so lovely. And I'm so sad to see the end of this series. But she has announced another series that she's writing that is also talked about at the end of this book called Sweetwater Peak. Now I believe the first one in that comes out in September. So I'm ready. I am seated. I am waiting for the next Lila Sage fill because love it. Spicy cowboy romance. Never gonna say no. The third book that I read in the month of July was Caught Up by Liz Tomford. Now this is book 3 in the Windy City series. I have loved this series. So I've read the other 2 books so far on Audible, so I've been using my Audible tokens to read these books. So I read this. I listened to this and read this when I was at home, so it was just constantly on. I think I read this in literally like 2 days, because if I was at home and sat down not doing anything, I was reading it, and if I was up busy cleaning at work or like driving to work, this was on. I absolutely love this book. So this one follows Kai and Miller. Now this is a single dad nanny situation. So Kai is a baseball player and Miller is a like sort of well-known pastry chef. Miller has like a bit of a, she wins this like really prestigious award, and it kind of throws her off a little bit and the pressure gets to her and she just needs a break. So she moves back home, lives with her dad, and her dad is the coach for the baseball team that Kai plays for. Kai is so protective over his son. His son is only sort of like, I think I want to say like 18 months. He's a teeny weeny little one. And Kai is so protective. He could never keep a nanny. Like he just sacks them off after like a week. He can never keep them for long. And obviously that's having an effect on the baseball and like getting childcare for games and things. Monte, who's the team coach, he decides that, you know what, win-win situation, Miller will be the nanny. She will have this break from her cooking and her work, and she will look after Max, the little one. And it's sort of just like the relationship development from there, and honestly I loved it. This is my favourite one in the series so far. I do think in the video I rate it 4.75, but I'm just like, do we call it a 5? Do we let this be a 5-star book? Because I love it. And like when I talk about this series as a whole now, this is the book that I think about, and honestly I just think this deserves it. So do you know what? 5-star. We're gonna do it. We're gonna increase it. This is gonna be our 5-star read for July, because I loved it. I loved it so much. Just the relationship that Max and Miller sort of like create, how supportive and amazing Kai is in terms of like Miller's work. There is a timeline on this as well, so she's like, I'm going to be here for 3 months and then I am gone. So like the third act conflict isn't just some petty little thing, it's the fact that they know this relationship can never be long term. And I love the ending of this book. I love the solution. I love how it all wraps up, and I love it. It is an interconnected series, so we do also see a lot of the first 2 books couples, which I really, really love. I just love the sort of like found family throughout the entire series. So yeah, I'm calling it a 5. I'm calling it a 5-star. Third book of July, a 5-star read, Caught Up by Liz Tomford. And then the next book that I read in July was Six Scotch Roses by Carissa Broadbent. Now, I really enjoyed this one. I really wish that this was longer. I loved these characters. This one follows Lilith and Vale. So Lilith is in this sort of like town that's been cursed by one of the gods, and everybody's getting really poorly. There's this sort of like plague going around. Lilith is a scientist, so she's sort of determined to find a cure for this illness that everybody's getting. They like basically turn to dust. It's really strange. But she is determined to find a cure for the illness that's sort of destroying her family and destroying her town. Her sister's really poorly with it as well. She basically decides that she's going to go to this horrible vampire that everyone sort of like hides from, who's, if anyone goes to see him, they never come back. But she decides to risk it to go to see if she can get some of his blood to create a cure for the plague. Like I say, I do wish this one was longer. It is only 150 pages, but I love their story and I love their dynamic and I love the banter, and like I love how they become sort of like 2 complete strangers to this nice little friendship to this lovely little romance. Now, I'm assuming that Lilith and Vale are going to be coming up in Ashes of the Star-Cursed King, which is book 2 in the Crowns of Nyxia series. So I'm assuming that they come up in that, which is why we've been given this little story of them now. But I just loved it. I loved it, and I do wish that this was a longer book. Like I said, it's just, I'd have loved that extra little bit of detail. It is quite time jumpy because it's like she goes to visit him once a month for another vial of blood. So it's like we do get those time jumps, and I'd have just loved a little bit more. But I really, really enjoyed it. For a book that's only 150 pages, I was hooked. Like I don't expect to get so hooked to characters when I've only known them for this short a time, but I loved it. I loved it so much. Such a good read. I'm going to give it a 4-star, and I think novellas are quite hard to rate, but I'm going to rate this 4 stars. I don't know why I'm talking so fast today. I just feel like I need to get all my words out. The 5th book that I read in July was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now, I went to Cork for the weekend with my mum and my sister, and this was the book that I decided to take on holiday with me, and I really loved this. I love Abby Jimenez's writing so much. I just think she writes such lovely, sweet romances, but they always have that really difficult topic running throughout them. Now, do definitely check your trigger warnings for this one. This book does have a lot of talk about dementia and Alzheimer's, so if that's something that you'd struggle with, then I don't recommend this book for you, because it is a very big topic throughout the book. Dementia is something that's really close with our family. There were moments where I was a bit like, this is actually quite difficult. It was just so lovely and it was so sweet. So this follows our two main characters, Samantha and Xavier. Now, I love their dynamic. I love this story. So basically, Samantha was living in this town and she is moving home to go and help look after her mum who has dementia. Now, just before she goes, she finds this cat, takes it to the vet, gets chatting to the vet, and like the vet is really arrogant. Now that vet is Xavier, so they have this sort of like weird interaction over this little cat. He decides then and there that he really likes her, but equally he's just a bit of an arse with her. The cat needs a surgery, he wouldn't recommend it, she doesn't have the funds, and she basically says, well, people are nice, people will help, and she creates like a GoFundMe page and raises the money to get this cat this surgery. She basically proves him wrong, takes the cat back, kind of like, told you, when she goes for a little checkup, and he's like, let's go on a date. So she's like, do you know what, I go home tomorrow, let's just risk it, let's go on this date. So they go on this date. This date is sort of like life-changing, but then she has to tell him that actually she's moving home the next day. They're going to be 2,000 miles apart. He has his own vet surgery, he can't leave that. She needs to go and take care of her family, she can't bail on that, so the long distance just isn't going to work, and she asks him to forget that their date ever happened. This book is just so sweet. Obviously it's very difficult, there's a lot of distance, there's a lot of talk on long distance relationships. It's very obviously a struggle with taking care of her mum. I really enjoyed it. The sweet moments throughout this book definitely pull higher than the sad moments in this book, but it is definitely one of her more sad ones, I would say, but I don't know if that's just because of obviously I can relate with the dementia side of things, so I don't know if it's just that pulls me more with this one, but I loved it. I really enjoyed this. I do recommend it if dementia is not something that you find too difficult to read about. It is a very sweet romance. The banter between the characters is amazing. How they resolve it all at the end, again, is amazing. I love this set of characters. I love the friendships that they make, and I adore them. I adore them. And then the final book that I read in July was Play Along by Liz Tomford. Now this is book 4 in the Windy City series, and this is following the brother from the last book. So this is Kai's brother, Isaiah, and Kennedy, which is Miller's best friend. We have Isaiah, who is also a baseball player, and then we have Kennedy, who's the team, like, sport therapist. At the end of book 3, Isaiah and Kennedy get really drunk and go to Vegas and get married. This picks up from their wedding day in Vegas and then them going over to and having to sort of like live with the consequences of that. So there's some very strict rules on the team about like not dating, and Kennedy's like boss is just a horrible person who didn't want to hire her in the first place, and he has like very strict rules about fraternising with the team and things. They basically have to figure out a way to get away with the fact that they're together now, even though it's very forbidden and against the rules in the team and things. It is sort of like an accidental marriage, marriage of convenience, because they stay married to basically like help Kennedy keep her job. Isaiah has always been obsessed with Kennedy, and Kennedy's just never been interested, so it's just a really interesting dynamic between them. Again, the banter in this is unbelievable. Like, I love the characters so much. Kennedy is such a sweetheart. She's had it really rough with her job. She's literally like a fully trained doctor being put down so many levels because the boss doesn't like women, basically. So it's like a really big play on that. And then also Isaiah has a lot of like really bad anxieties and things, and a lot of trauma that's touched upon in the other books as well. So it's kind of like how they support each other through that. So obviously Kennedy's having a really shit time with work and everything, and Isaiah's got a lot of like anxiety to work through that nobody else really knows about. And I loved this. It was such good fun. I really enjoyed the dynamic between these two, and again, you still get all that found family elements and seeing all the other couples and the developments in their stories and things, and I love this series so much. I really do. I'm gonna be so sad when I read the last book in this series because I just love this world so much. I didn't like this one quite as much as book 3, but I did still love this, so I'm probably going to rate this at a 4.5. I enjoyed it so much. I love their relationship, I love their dynamic, I love the ending, I love it. I'm going to say a 4.5 for this one. I literally finished this one like 2 days ago, so but yeah, this is the last book that I read in July, and honestly, what a reading month. I have nothing bad to say about any of the books that I read this month. Like, they've all been incredible. I've had probably my best reading month to date. Like, July has been so good for reading. There are all the books that I read in July. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And please do let me know what you've been reading this month. I love hearing what you guys are reading, what you're up to. If you've read these books as well, let me know what you thought. I'm always so interested to see what sort of vibe you're on with your reading, if it's similar to mine, if we're on a similar reading vibe. But yeah, and as always, my social media, my Amazon, my Goodreads and my business email are all in the description bar below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're well. Take care. Bye.